understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.
Happy Friday. We are back with another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. Today's a really exciting show for me. I have my esteemed guest, Chiji Uzo, CEO of AmpaCash. Chiji, welcome to our show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Today's show, From Pennies to Power, Building Revenue with Micropayments. This is a topic that's a long time coming. We're trying to get Chiji on the show for a very long time to really break down and help us understand micropayments and the business that he's in, which is AmpaCash. So before we get started, let me do some housekeeping. We are streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and we also have a stream going from Instagram. So everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. Really exciting, going to be a really exciting topic that we're going to get into. If you want to drop a comment, feel free to drop a comment and we'll make it part of the show and we'll answer your question. We like to keep it very dynamic, so you could just drop a comment, question, feedback at any point in time that you would like. On that note, let me introduce my guest, Chiji, and let me read his spectacular bio, and then we're going to get into it. Chiji Uzo is an entrepreneur who believes that technology will create new industries and transform existing ones. He holds a BS in economics and applied statistics and an MBA quantitative finance from Rutgers University. He began a PhD in finance on a full fellowship, but dropped out to pursue his business interest. He has held senior IT positions in major financial institutions, including Bank Austria, Quant and Trading Floor, Solomon Brothers, Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, TD Ameritrade, and Amazon Web Services, where he led a machine learning team before leaving to form AmpaCash. He has been a technology executive, designing, building, and supporting the infrastructure that drives financial businesses for over 20 years. Chiji founded AmpaCash on the premise that micropayments, that is payments between 1 cent and $2, are required to provide fair value to content creators and distributors, and that the mobile phone is the ultimate transacting device. Chiji reads very widely and enjoys evaluating perspectives that differ from the norm. And note, I love it.
Well, thank you.
Very extensive bio, and I know I'm not going to name which one, but one of those firms is where we connected back in the days.
That's true. That's what we meant. That's true.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful run. So Chiji, talk to us about micropayments. You know, this is when you first introduced it to me, many moons ago. I've been fascinated. So for people that don't understand, can you break down what micropayments are?
All right. Okay. Micropayments is variously defined by, depends on whom you ask. They'll say, if you're talking to a bank or a Visa or MasterCard, they'll say it's a transaction under $10 or under $5. We define micropayments as transactions under $2 because that's the threshold below which most of the traditional providers, credit cards, banks, or people on their rails, below which they don't make a profit. So if you walk to a store and you want to buy a piece of gum for 50 cents and you whip out your credit card, the store owner will typically say, nope, $10 minimum. Because on these smaller transactions, on the micropayment transactions, if you make a payment by credit card, they don't make any money. Nobody makes a profit, not the merchant, not the card processor. So micropayments then is these things that are small transactions that most of the traditional processors can't handle. Offline, you can pay $1 and get change. But online, you can't pay cash. So a solution is needed for delivering micropayments online.
So, back before the advent of like streaming, everybody's just, they stream records or things like that. Apple had this whole 99 cents. You'll put out, a musician will put out a single and then you'll buy it for 99 cents. That's based on your definition, that's considered a micropayment.
That's correct. That's correct. What happened though was that with the Apple solution, the technology for the traditional payment processor still couldn't make a profit. But what the solution they came up with was they would aggregate your purchases. So you download for 99 cents, they'll tell you that you're charged, but they'll wait to see if you'll make another charge. They'll bring it up to about $2 where people can break even. So that was the solution that the credit card companies came up with, Visa specifically. And the problem with that, of course, is if you buy just one record and you don't buy a few more, then they don't make money. Apple eats the loss. Apple was willing to do that because they were using it to sell their phones, sell their devices. There's a huge margin on that. So the iTunes Play was promoting that. But there's a need for an intrinsic process where the transaction itself will be profitable. You don't have to aggregate it. You want to be able to go someplace and buy something for 5 cents, for 10 cents, for $10. And that requires a technology that is low cost technology. That's the bottleneck. The credit card companies, they all started as charge cards. So if you have a charge card, you have a tab at Macy's you run up a bill of $500, one of $1,000. These card companies are some of the youngest ones are a few 50 years old. American Express is 100 years old. So they were planning for large amounts. So they did the design. When you process a card transaction, there are very many parties in between. The merchant, the acquirer, the network owner, the Visa data center, the card issuer. And all these parties have to take a portion of the fee, of the transaction fee that the merchant pays. This is all right if the amount is big. But if the amount is small, that fee is so small that everybody loses money. And that's why to this day, if you go online and try to buy something, you can't find anything to purchase for 99 cents or $1 or a micropayment transaction. Without to segue into that, that's the technology we have. It's backed by 5 issued patents that allows you to do transactions profitably, even if they are small. And we think this is important. It's going to be transformational.
So, I mean, let's think about that, right? Because I know, just from a consumer level, let's talk from that perspective. Amazon, biggest, they're the Walmart of the internet, right? They want everything you can buy on Amazon. And thinking about it, I've never purchased anything from Amazon that's under $1. I don't even know if you can. I've never seen that.
No.
Now that's online, right? But even in going to certain merchant stores, and they always have a minimum purchase requirement. So let's say that you go to I don't know, some regular mom and pop's gas station, and they have gum for 50 cents, and you try to use your credit card. Can't do it. But what about your debit card? Since your debit card is similar to cash, same concept, I assume.
Same concept, but there's still a fee. There's still a fee for the debit card. It's a little lower than for a credit card, but there's still a fee. In fact, you probably know that I think 3 months ago, Amazon says that if you make Venmo your default method of payment online, they'll give you $5 because the Venmo charges are lower than the charges for a credit card or a debit card. What you have to understand is that the technology that makes micropayments possible means that the transactions of any size, whether it's $100 or $1,000, you pay a lower fee. You pay a fee that's lower than what you would pay with a traditional payment processors. So what happens is the mom and pop, the smaller stores, the smaller transaction people in a physical store, you can afford to lose money. If you went into a Walmart, for example, and wanted to buy a piece of gum for 75 cents, it's a losing proposition for them. But there are not enough of such transactions for that to affect their bottom line. But if you're a content creator and you list all your content, and maybe all your content is for 75 cents and you have 1 million followers, if all of them choose to buy, say 20% of them choose to buy, you have quite 200,000 transactions for 75 cents each. Any processor who does that loses money on each of the transactions. So online, it just does not scale. And we live in a world of content. This is the world of content, music online, videos online, games online. So what people try to do to get around this problem And it's really a problem with the current payment processing models that we have. They'll say, okay, you do subscriptions, pay us monthly. So the amount is a little larger. Even though you take a large bite with a fee, you can still make a profit. Or they'll say, all right, we'll give you the content for free. We know you want to pay a small amount, but we don't have any method of accepting the small amount. So we're just going to give you the content for free and try to make money on advertising. The problem is that the only people that can make money with that model are people that have a large number of followers. And so the solution we have will permit anyone with content. It doesn't matter. You could have 1,000 people following your content. You can say, listen, pay me $1 each. And $1 each a month is $1,000. You could say, pay me $2. Now, if you accepted a donation or a purchase for 50 cents and it was paid for by credit card, you as a content creator may pay a fee of 65 cents because the fees online are higher, and they're even higher for people that are not established businesses. So right now, being able to make money if you don't have a large following isn't feasible. But we are changing that. AmpaCash is changing that. If you accept AmpaCash, you'll be able to list content, generate a fair amount of revenue. In fact, we launched a content platform called Pay to Stream, where content creators can drag and drop their content, generate revenue. And we think we've gotten a fair amount of interest, and we think it's transformational.
So let's kind of go back to that, right? Whole idea from a content creation perspective.
Yeah.
If I put out a piece of content, an article, based on what you're talking about with micropayments, what is the lowest amount that I can charge where it makes sense? Like right now, if I charge without the idea, the concept of micropayments and the things that you're doing, I can't there's no facility in place for me to charge 25 cents for my article, right?
No.
What if they use one of the payment platforms like a Cash App, Venmo, like you mentioned? Is that still can't do it?
They still can't do it. A lot of those people are still on traditional rails. You have to be on a completely different rail to be able to lower the cost sufficiently for those things to be profitable. Let me back up a bit. One of the problems with the current content platforms is that before you can qualify to earn income, there's a very high bar you have to reach. For example, on YouTube, before you qualify to earn income, you have to have at least 3 million views and 1,000 subscribers. And then when you qualify, they tell you that there's an algorithm that'll determine how much income you get. That's why whenever you go on YouTube, they're always pleading and say, hey, listen, please click on my notification button. Please click on my subscription button, because the algorithm determines how much it is they're going to earn. Now, assuming you're not a big content creator, you have a small following, you have 1 million followers, doesn't even qualify you for income on a lot of these platforms. But if you have content, for example, that you listed for 50 cents, you have 1 million followers, 10% of them want to view your content and they are willing to pay you 50 cents a month. You're making $25,000 a month. That's $300,000 a year. What micropayments do is that it allows you to generate a solid income, living wage from your content. And you don't necessarily have to be a huge content creator. You don't have to have 30 million followers. You could make a living with 10,000 followers, with 1,000 followers, so long as people are willing to make payment for the content you create.
Can we circle back on that? I don't want to, because when you say 1 million followers, most people, that's a lot, right? I've been doing this for 40 years. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yes.
But now you talk about 1,000 followers. So let's say hypothetically, because what you see right now from a content creation perspective, they do something like a Patreon, or can you donate? You know, they might have something where, you know, you give this amount and then we'll give you some behind the scene things. But if I don't want to do that, and let's just say, I want to say to the people that follow me, this is the content, I'm going to charge 50 cents a month. Right now, with the solution of the micropayment solution that you have, that's a possibility.
That's correct.
There's nothing on the market right now that could do that.
That's correct. There are three options that we get with our micropayment solution, which is AmpaCash, and the pay to stream solution, which is the content platform that we own. There are three things. You as a content creator can say, to see this content, it's $1, 50 cents, 75 cents, $2, or $5, because we're not just limited to micropayments. You can say this, I'm streaming a live show, it's $50 a pop. The difference is that even for the larger transactions, you pay much lower fees than you would anywhere else because it's the same engine that processes both. So you save a lot of money. But the second thing, especially for a content creator, you can say, listen, this content is 75 cents a pop, click on it. And then you could have free content. But we have a concept called tip to view for free content. You'll say the content is free, but tip something. Tip something to view it. You can tip as little as 2 cents or 5 cents. Tip something to view. So it's free content, but your followers or people who want to enjoy the content and support you would tip you something, 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, $1, any amount. But the amount can be very low. So what happens then is that because of micropayments, whenever somebody accesses your content, whether it's a video, a piece of music, a game, a live stream, a chapter of your book, you earn some income. That's one of the things. Now, one other thing that micropayments support is that you can have a subscription model. The subscription model that we have currently is for a month. You pay for a month, you eat all you can, and they do that monthly amount because they want the amount for your subscription to be big enough so that when you do a credit card charge, they take the fee and they still make a profit. But with micropayments, you can do granular subscriptions. You can say, listen, you can access this content for an hour or 5 hours or a day, and the cost is $1.50 or 50 cents or 70 cents. So your subscription model, the revenue models become much more, broader. And then micropayments don't exclude you're still making money from your ads, or you're doing a monthly subscription or pay-per-use. So it makes it much broader.
So I have a question for that. So
yeah,
how does that work for a content creator? Would they need their own platform? A lot of the content creators, they might not necessarily have their own platform. They might be on YouTube. They might be on these other services, Instagram, Facebook, different social media, but they're producing content and placing it there. How would they integrate or accept micropayments for that? How does that work?
Okay, we have three solutions for that. What we do is, one is we have the content platform that we own called Pay to Stream, beta.paytostream.com. It's still in beta, but it's going to go live within the next 30 days. You drag and drop the content and you specify, you sign up as a merchant and you specify, look, this content, I want this one to be free, tip to view. This one, I want people to pay 75 cents. This one, whatever content you have, you drag and drop it and it's ready to go. Anybody can see it on Pay to Stream. Oh, by the way, we support live streams also. That's one option. The second option is you can give us, let's say you're on any of the popular platforms like YouTube. You can say, I have content on YouTube. You give us a link to it. If you go to our site, if you go to AmpaCash, we'll give you a description how you give us a link. And that link, you don't necessarily have to drag and drop the content. The link is available on Pay to Stream. But if somebody wants to watch it on Pay to Stream, then they have to pay. They have to make the payment. By the way, Pay to Stream only supports payments with AmpaCash because we support small payments. If we did it with a credit card, it'll become expensive. So the content creator can drag and drop or just give us a link to their social platform. We support some platforms where you don't have to even drag and drop. You just give a link to the content and it becomes available.
So help me out from a technical perspective, right? They give you this link to YouTube and it goes on Pay to Stream.
Yeah.
Can't the end user, the viewer, just watch it on YouTube for free, or how does that process work?
What we're trying to do, obviously, the people can. One of the things with this fork is that someone can say, I don't want to pay. I want to watch it for free. Or you could say, what I'm showing on YouTube is the first 2 minutes. If you want to see the full thing, watch it here. So we leave the content creator the option to do it any which way. You can say, listen, it's free here, but if you want to tip me 10 cents, 5 cents, watch it here and tip me. You have a lot of choices. You can say it's here good, but it's premium over there. So
from understanding it right now, Pay to Stream will be its own platform for content that you can pay for. People can. So
That's correct.
it's similar to it's like a paid version of YouTube. Besides, and it's all types of content, I assume, from
Correct.
video, text to digital text to anything.
Music, audiobooks. In fact, we spoke to authors. He says we experimented with this, and it was because we have beta merchants right now, and he took his ebook, and he broke it into chapters. The book has, I think, 25 chapters in all, but some people are only interested in chapters 3 and 4. It has to do with dieting and things like that. So if you want to read just chapter 3 and 4, just pay for it, read it, and say, "Oh, wow, that's great." If you want to, if it thrills you, and you want to read more, you can click and just buy by chapter. I would think that has a lot of applications. Think about textbooks. College textbooks, like I know college textbooks in mathematics go for something like $75 a pop.
Oh my God,
if you did it, it'd be expensive. So if you did it, textbooks generally across the board for colleges, they're pricey. They're pricey. So if you broke it up by chapters, and students could pay as they go, say, "This is where chapter 3, I don't have to buy the whole book." And very often, your professor doesn't necessarily go through all the chapters in the book. So you can just pay for the chapter that you're looking for as you go along. Pay to stream has a great deal of opportunity, and it's all tied to micropayments.
Brilliant. You know what? Like, because when we talked about pay to stream, it didn't click for me until right now. That's absolutely amazing. So in the conversations, we can understand, you mentioned that the reason why we can't do that now is because there's not a rail. Can you help people? I know we did a show on it prior for great guests. We talked about payment rails, but can you just educate the guests on payment rails? So what does that mean exactly?
All right, payment rails is, for example, if you're using, say, Google Pay, what does Google Pay do? They ask you have to have a credit card. Then you enter the credit card into the phone, and then when you want to make a payment someplace, you tap your phone on the point of sale terminal, and that credit card is transmitted to the point of sale terminal. It's processed exactly like a credit card, so you are on credit card rails. There is no way to do that transaction and make it any cheaper because it's ultimately dependent on the credit card. So when you say you're on credit card rails, it means that whatever processing you're doing, whether you're on Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever, somewhere at the back, it depends on the credit card processing system. And since that system cannot do small payments, you can't. It doesn't matter what you do. So that's what it means to be on the credit card rail. And the credit card rail, the way it's done is when you do, every time you do a transaction, if it's an online transaction, there are at least 5 parties involved. And each of those parties have to take a bit of the payment. So once you're on that rail, there are some transactions you can't do.
Okay, understandable. No, I mean, when you start looking at it like this, and I love the blend of fintech, finance, technology, and how it now can impact the content creator. I just love those connection strings. I think it's amazing. You gave us a slide, and I want you to walk us through it.
Yes. I give you guys a slide to explain the difficulties for a regular content creator to make money. And think about it. Again, the existing platforms support content creators with millions of followers, but those are in the minority. What we're looking at is if you're a regular content creator and you create something that people like, look, if you have 20,000 followers, that's great. It means your content is loved by 20,000 people. You should be able to make a decent living or generate good income from it. But if you look at this, if you look at the platforms, you see that the way they are structured, it's really not favorable for content creators. On YouTube, for example, you need 1,449 views to make $1, to make $1. And it varies from platform to platform, but they're certainly not, it makes it very difficult for content creators to make a living. Apart from the fact that even to qualify, as you can see from this, from the slide, even to qualify, you have to have many more followers just to make a little money. Now, if you're on a platform like Pay to Stream, you have much more control. If you have 20,000 followers and you say, hey, listen, you guys that want to support me, go to Pay to Stream, and 50% of them go and tip you, you generate predictable and sizable income. One of the problems that we think that Pay to Stream solves and micropayment solves is that the fees on most of these content platforms and most of my social media platforms, they are really not very favorable to content creators. For example, if you are an author and you create an audiobook and you go on Audible, first of all, you pay for all the cost of converting the ebook to audio. And then all the revenue, any revenue you receive, Audible takes 60% of your revenue. You get 40%, provided you sign an exclusive contract with Audible. So it's very difficult for content creators to make money. So not only are you not getting a lot of people, but the revenue you get, you really have to share the majority of it with the platform. It goes to the platform. What we did on Pay to Stream was we said the platform fee is 10% flat. We don't charge any payment processing fee. People pay you, there's no processing fee because it's AmpaCash, we control that. And so we think that gives content creators a great opportunity, and you don't have to be big, to generate a living wage, generate income. Listen, we live in a world where pleasure is content-based, it's input-based, sensory, audio, visual, and that's what we're doing. And the people who are creating this stuff, it takes time, it takes energy to put together a show or put together content that's interesting and entertaining. And I think they should be fairly rewarded. So sure, certainly the platform should get some money, but I think this micropayments makes it a little more equitable.
So let me get this straight. You're 10%, right?
Yeah.
Someone charges 25 cents for their article.
We take 2 cents. 2
That's
cents. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because it's a volume business. It's a volume business. We make it possible for, we support your content creators. They come over, we make it possible. You are always earning income. It's a volume business, right? So, and then if you have loyal fans, let's say you have 1,000 people that say, okay, we'll give you $1 a month. Maybe you have 5,000 followers and 1,000 of them say, we'll support you. You're generating income. And when they pay you the $1, you pay for $1, we take 10 cents. It's a flat fee. And that's it. You generate sizable income. And that's the only fee you pay. You don't pay anything else. In addition, in order to make our platform even more potent, we support charities and nonprofits. So if you ever went to give money to, say, the Red Cross, they'll tell you the minimum you can give is $10. Because below that, after they pay the fees and things, the credit card fees, there's very little money left. Now, for the charities, we waive all fees, no platform fees, no processing fees. So they're doing a promotion to support an earthquake victim in some place. You give $1, the entire dollar goes to the bottom line. And they have an incentive to now get people to give them through AmpaCash. We waive all the fees for charities and nonprofits on the pay-to-stream platform.
So how does that work? I mean, the credit cards are not able to do that.
No, they're not.
They still are charging fees for the nonprofits, and that's why there's a minimum donation requirement.
That's correct.
Without giving the secret sauce, how are you able to do that? Right?
Well, it's a new rail. Like I said, we have 5 patents, and I can explain sort of high level. Whenever you're doing a transaction, it's really transferring value from one account to another. The model that what we have is what you call ledger fusion, where we eliminate all the overheads associated with a network provider and with multiple parties. With ledger fusion, all the transactions appear to be in one ledger. It appears to be in a single ledger. So what that means is there's very little network overhead, and all the transactions settle in real time. Again, it's a new tech. The way to look at it that will make it a little clearer is if you and I bank with the same bank, and we have accounts with the same bank, if I transfer money to you, it's immediate. They're not going through any third party. They're not doing anything. They just debit your account and credit my account. It's immediate. It settles instantly. The challenge was that historically, people haven't been able to do that on a large scale where the accounts are not in the same bank. They're in different places. How do you create a ledger that makes all these transactions instant? That's what we did. That's our secret sauce, so to speak. But yes, we're live. It's working. AmpaCash is live in the US. You can download the app from the Apple or Google Play Store. You can do these transactions. And then we have, and this is just the key portion, the portion that reduces the cost of payments. But we have additional features like you can make a purchase directly with your phone. As you probably know, if you want to do anything online, you need to bring out a card and enter your card number, and then they have to store the card number. But with AmpaCash, you can make a purchase directly with your phone, no cards. And for that, you just enter the phone number and a PIN that's generated on the phone that's unique to the phone. So without giving out away too much, that's sort of a high-level summary of what makes the technology that makes it possible.
So I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, when you think about it, because what you're doing essentially is you created an entirely new payment rail. So if I'm now one of the major players in the game, like a Visa or MasterCard, AmpaCash is a threat.
That's correct. We've actually had some, I don't want to mention names, but some people wanted to buy us out, and we didn't think they wanted to buy us out and grow us. I think they wanted to buy us out. And let me qualify that. The Visas and the MasterCards, they process trillions of transactions. They are immensely profitable. The point is that they are not going to reject their existing infrastructure to be able to handle micropayments. It's just a lot of work, and it puts their existing business at risk. So these changes we're seeing, the capacity to do micropayments, the capacity to do real-time settlement, it has to come from a new company. The existing companies, the Visas, the MasterCards, the banks, and their rails, they serve a purpose. They are making a ton of money and things like that. But the new technologies have to come from companies like ours. And where we live in a world that is now really content driven. Everybody has a cell phone. The cell phone is very powerful. That's one of our cost reduction things that I didn't mention. We use the processor on the cell phone as part of our engine for processing micropayments, which is part of what reduces the cost. The cell phone, the iPhone 6 has I think it's 7,000 times more power than the mainframe that beat the world chess champion in 1997. So that way, distributed computing, we don't need this huge backend with huge servers and a large amount of cost. We're distributing it. Some of the processing is done on the phone of the user, and those are some of the things that minimize or reduce cost.
It's really interesting to process. So, you talked about the content creator.
Yep.
Most can tell by our names. We're Nigerian from Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
So
certainly.
How can it help someone in a market selling Gary and selling some yams and stuff like that? How can it
Okay, interesting. Let me answer that two ways. There are two things. In most of these foreign markets, Nigeria, Africa, Mexico, in fact, in Mexico, unlike in Nigeria, only 20% of people have bank accounts or credit cards or debit cards at that. 80% of the population don't have any of those tools. So the Visa, MasterCard, American, they're all struggling for 20% of the business. We actually have a partner in Mexico. And one of the reasons they partner with us is that we are competing with cash. We're not competing with those processors. They can't do, if you sold something for 100 pesos to a Mexican hawker, and you say the fee, I'm going to pay you with some thing, and the fee is 10 pesos. They say, no, pay me cash. They're not interested in any of those things that are going to eat into their profits. In Nigeria, if you're going to host, somebody's selling something, a street hawker, or somebody has whatever, and you walk into the store and say you want to pay with a debit card, and they're going to pay a large chunk of their margin as fees. They'll say, no, pay me cash. So unless you have a solution that can make the fees so low that it competes with cash, you're not in business. You can't reach that population. They're completely outside, and the populations are large. Nigeria has 220 million people. The amount of money to be made there is huge. Now, the advantage that you have over cash is that cash is person to person. If you want to pay somebody, you have to be right there. The advantage you bring with a solution like ours, at AmpaCash, is that you can pay somebody that's 100 miles away, and it's still the same low fee. It's still the same low thing. So it has an advantage over cash. And we think that in those locations, we have a significant advantage. Well, back to content creation. Pay to stream supports foreign content creators. So you can bring your content. You have a US audience. What we do is we're partnered with a provider who would allow the foreign content creator to incorporate a US corporation online, get an EIN number, and get a bank account. So in that time, while that is pending, we still allow the content creator to earn revenue. When you sign up, you get a handle. Somebody can use your handle and pay you. You can collect tips and things. So both online and offline, physically in that location, we think we have an advantage, a significant advantage over traditional payment processors.
Quick question, just because it's going to come up and people are thinking about it. Ledger, people were there going, wait, why can't I do this with blockchain? Or things of that nature. So can you help explain that?
Yes. Blockchain is a rail that could, in fact, do micropayments. The new rail, it's low cost. It would be ideal for it. But blockchain right now has some problems that they have to overcome before it can become an effective platform or method for doing micropayment processing. And the problem is that blockchain is limited in the number of transactions they can process per second. So the best blockchain people can do 7 transactions a second. Visa can do 24,000 transactions a second. AmpaCash, we can currently do 7,000 transactions a second, and we can bump that up to 21,000 transactions a second. Now, there have been some modifications to blockchain. I don't want to get too technical, but instead of blockchain typically uses what you call proof of work. And to make it faster, they switched that to use what you call proof of stake. And there's a company that's most representative of this called Solana. The problem is that proof of stake has a lot of it has some problems, security problems. It's had frequent outages, and micropayments is a volume business. You have to be able to do volume because you're making a small amount for each transaction, so you have to be able to handle volume. So until they work out these problems, which I believe they will with blockchain, it can be deployed right now for production use in micropayments, but eventually I think they'll work it out. But it is a new rail that has the cost structure to become good with micropayment once they solve this scaling problem.
But it's also the same issue, right? Like if you try to send a minimum amount on blockchain, it's always that limit. Anytime you deal with these rails, it's always the minimum amount that you can send.
Exactly.
You start talking about lower cost transactions for 25 cents, 50 cents. It's always that limit that kind of jams most of these situations.
It jams most of those people, but you are correct.
Interesting stuff.
Go on. Mm-hmm.
What were you about to say?
No, I was going to say yes. It's a constraint, but I think specifically with blockchain, they are closer to resolving it. At least it's a new thing. They're actively looking. But for now, it's almost confined for bigger transactions. Blockchain is usually for big, and people are using it speculatively. They're not focusing on saying, let's use blockchain to solve an existing problem where we need to be able to get it down to 5 cents. Even the efforts with Solana are not necessarily geared towards small transactions and being able to do it at volume, because the challenge is you have to do it at volume, at low cost, and yet make it secure. I don't want to lose money because it's 10 cents. I'm not going to lose money because it's small. Your security has to be built in too. So that's a challenge. For example, every time you run a credit card transaction, when the card gets the Visa people or the Visa data center, they do about 122 fraud checks on it. And those things increase the cost. Now, so we have a much more efficient method of making certain the transactions are secure, large or small. And that's important. Cost is a key consideration, and most of the traditional payment people haven't figured that out yet. And they can't because it just requires changing the model.
I think in business, cost is a key consideration, no matter what we're talking about. So one of the things we're doing now with the show, we get technical at first, want to understand, the topic obviously is micropayments, and then we try to shift this focus on to really get behind and understand what are some of the things that inspire you to do the work that you do.
Well, I'm a passionate person. I'll say my 3 main passions are philosophy, storytelling, and mathematics. Philosophy, why? Because you got to ask the big questions. Why are we here? What am I doing here? Do I have a purpose? Does this matter? And those things help clarify how you live your life. I think that's one. Two is storytelling. I mean, stories undermine everything. You can use stories to motivate people to the greatest things. You can use stories to make people to be the most destructive. And as humans, we have almost limitless capacity for wickedness and cruelty. And believe it or not, I think those things are motivated by the stories we're told, the stories we believe. It can inspire us to the heights of virtue or to the depths of evil. In fact, I believe that God tells stories. So I think that right now and you can see it in these explosions in content and all that stuff, that we have the tools to tell nice stories, uplifting stories, transformational stories that can make us function better as humans, as a species, and not destroy ourselves or destroy the world. So I really believe in storytelling. And in mathematics, it's just a pleasure. It's just like, I don't know, maybe these are endorphins released, like when you go do a good run. I don't know if I mentioned I like triathlons, and there's some thrill you get from just understanding something or solving a problem. So yeah, those are the three things I'm really passionate about.
So so let's get into that, because I really get that answer to this question, in terms of mathematics, philosophy, and storytelling. So let's go to each one of those things. So my last experience with philosophy was a class in undergrad, and the biggest lesson that I took from there, which was very interesting. Don't tell me I don't remember anything from the class, but this was it. We're both looking at a wall that we perceive to be a white wall, for instance, like my background. We don't both see the same color white, right?
It's true.
I can't, even though we may have been taught that this is white, I cannot prove that you and I both see the same hue, shade, or whatever. And
Clearly.
that was a really interesting concept for me at the time. I might have been 19, 20. And like I said, I don't remember anything else from the class, but I took that part. So when you talk about philosophy being a passion, can you give us some examples of how that impacts what you do?
Yes, because it affects the choices you make in a very real sense. I don't know if you might have recalled in the 90s, a lot of the people that were making a ton of money on Wall Street, they were all philosophy majors. So how come, man? It's not as if they studied business. Carl Icahn, Leon Black, Irv the Liquidator, they're all philosophy majors. Even what's his name? George Soros was economics and philosophy. So being able to ask those questions, listen, what am I doing here? What is the world? You may not get all the answers that are necessary, but you get answers for yourself. Even murderers, assassins, people, they'll say, oh, there's nothing. The world is nothing. It's kill or be killed, dog eat dog, so I can murder people for money, it doesn't matter. The answers to those questions inform the way you live your life in a real sense, but you do have to wrestle with them. The answers may not necessarily apply to everybody or be universal, but especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it informs how you proceed. It makes you hardy. You'll say, listen, in 100 years, maybe nobody will remember me or even remember that I lived. My passions, my desires will be all gone. I might be able to make a difference if I can do something to uplift humanity. Some of those insights really fortify you, makes you hardy, makes you willing to take the risk. So I think that preparation is important, and it's especially important for entrepreneurs.
Really interesting. I know there was when I worked in New York, I would take my lunch breaks and I would go to museums. I remember going to this one museum, and they were doing a live show with some Buddhist monks, and what they drew this whole huge painting on the floor. They outlined it, and then to color it, they would put these different colors of sand, and they spent like about 2-3 weeks doing this. And at the end of the whole thing, because I would go there on a daily basis during lunch, just watching it progress to this beautiful piece of art on the floor. And after they did it, they swept it all up and they just dumped it at a body of water. And I was like, blown because we're so used. And the whole thing is to symbolize that to what you said, right? Nothing is here forever. It's like we're, and then and we have to also be comfortable with that because a lot of things that we do, we think that this is going to be bad, but it's like boom, click, and can you make a difference? And that happened. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I remember that, and it gave me a different perspective on life, on some of the things that I do and put out. So I found that interesting. I think it blends well with what you
Yes.
So the next thing, mathematics. How are you? So are you just doing math problems? Like how are you? What do you?
Yeah. So one of the things, math in a sense is, one of the things, math is very often people say, oh, I don't have aptitude for math. Oh no, I'm not into that. I believe that that's not strictly true. If you apply it yourself, you're not trying to become a PhD in math or something. You just want to have the fundamentals. So if somebody talks about something and says, oh, this is a mathematical thing we have to do, you don't freeze up and say, whoa, no, don't tell me about it. You know that you have some of the basics to be able to follow a reasonable argument and say, okay, that makes sense, I see. You don't have to be hardcore. And one of the illuminating things is that there are some things people may describe in the physical world, whether it's physics or whatever, with some very basic mathematics, you can access it and it becomes very beautiful. You can say, wow, so humans could come up with this. And you don't have to be again, the people bandy the term genius around, but with some basic work, you can look at things that people have already done and then say, wow, it's like appreciating a painting. You sometimes have to look at a lot of paintings and develop an eye for it. You have to put some work in to get some base mathing, but there are so many things out there that people have done in the past that you can just sit down and appreciate. It's almost like looking out your window and the sea and say, "Wow, this is beautiful." I mean, that's how I feel because I think I have the basic machinery to be able to appreciate things that are beautiful in the mathematical sense. So that's not, that's it.
How does it work exactly? Are you picking up books and just looking at like theorems or algorithms from the past? Like how does it work when one says I have a passion about math and they exercise that?
Okay, one of the things I like to do is I like to look at history. How did people come up with these things? I don't look at a lot of modern math that's very abstract. I look at things like, say, oh wow, how did they come up with using matrices to solve problems? What were they trying to solve? They say, oh, there are so very many problems. How do we solve it in one swoop? When you look at things like that, and then you say, "Oh, look at the solution they came up with. This is so elegant." This is some. I like to look at math from a historical perspective. A lot of the new math is very abstract and not necessarily accessible to lay people. But if you look at the history of old math, it's really good. And I do think that there's a parallel between this kind of appreciation that comes from looking at math historically and the high you get from exercise. Maybe that's why I'm a triathlete. I think there's a connection. There's a mental connection between both of them. Because you get a high, when you work out, there's some exertion initially, but you get a high from after doing that exertion. And I think it's the same thing. You exert yourself to understand some of these historical things, and then you get a thrill.
So we have a comment from YouTube, Henry Vasquez. Thank you, Henry, for the comment. With mathematical proof techniques, you can even learn to spot logical fallacies in arguments.
That's correct. That's correct too. You'll be able to be able to think both inductively and deductively. It's difficult to. One of the stories I like to tell is that yes, we live in a democratic place. Copernicus was the guy who discovered that the Earth was not the center of the universe at a time when everybody believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, but that the Earth revolved around the sun. Now, if Copernicus were to run for a political position by espousing the theory that, look, the Earth is not the center, it's really rotating, he would have lost in a world where everybody believed that the Earth was rotating. So one of the things that a mathematical preparation does is it helps you identify what is true, what may or may not be true, what is logically ridiculous or fallacious, as something that may not be provable but may in fact be true. So what I'm positing then is that when Copernicus came out and said the Earth is not the center of the universe, It rotates around the sun. A lot of people say, no, you're talking nonsense. But I suspect, and I'm speculating here, that some mathematicians to the crowd might have said, it may be possible. That willingness to allow for possibility because of your rational processes is something we really need in our society, where it's very easy for demagogues to sway the population and move us one way or the other.
That's amazing, looking at life like that and exploring that as a passion, because it actually inspires me. I was started a PhD program 2 years ago, and I took this very
how's that going?
So I completed the class requirements. I completed my quals.
Excellent.
For people that don't know, it's like after your class requirements, you have to take this thing called a qualification exam. And then after that, it's all independent study. So my advisor's not happy with me. My independent study going, he's watching, I'm doing stuff like this as opposed to doing the independent research. But I do have a direction that I'm interested in. But when I took the classes, I haven't taken, those types of classes in eon. So being in those complex math courses, man, oh my goodness, my mind was stretched. In undergrad, over 20 something years ago, I took those things. But fast forward to modern times, I'm like, I was so frustrated with life at the time. And to hear someone talk about the passion they have for it, and I know what I went through, is definitely inspiring. Now, you just mentioned that the same high you get from solving those complicated problems you get from an exercise. And I know from a personal side, you're a triathlete.
That's
And
great.
I've always admired that about you. How does that help with what you do in terms of AMP? Because if a triathlete, for those that don't know, that includes a race where you swim, you run, and you bike. So the training to get to that level, to even be qualified and not die, it's just a training. So can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, one of the things I discovered, I used to like running, even though I wasn't very talented in it. I enjoyed it. I guess part of the high was you run and you feel good afterwards. I switched to triathlons because it was, you swim, you bike, and you run. And I didn't know how to swim, so I had to learn. My strongest event is the bike. I can bike for a very long time. So the discipline of saying is in a sense is like business. You don't have all the skills, the places you're weak. So I spent a lot more time training on my swimming to perfect my technique. I have very little body fat. I tend to sink. I really had to have my technique perfect just to keep up with people who are natural floaters, So I spent a lot of time on those areas where I was weak. And then I combined the whole thing. Again, you get a lot of gratification. I don't know, maybe the world is designed so that we get rewarded for effort somehow. So you put in a lot of energy to get competent, proficient, somewhat competitive. You want to be able to, even though I set personal goals as opposed to necessarily competing with others. And so the triathlon is really gratifying. It makes you not just focus on what you're gifted at, but learn additional skills. And it's, especially if you're doing entrepreneurial work, it's great for stress relief. You know how to cope with things, and you sometimes you train and you go in and then you look at your time, it's disappointing. You say, wow, I worked out for 2 months for this thing and look at how I did. But those things are all the part of mental machinery you bring to entrepreneurship, which really is bringing an idea into the world. Sometimes it's fraught with disappointment, but you learn how to push through.
That's amazing, man. And I know, I struggled similarly with swimming, and I had to literally force myself after every workout to hit the pool, even if it was just one lap. I was just determined to say, you know what? After every workout, I'm going to go in the pool. And eventually, and then, bringing it to entrepreneurship, right? My biggest teachers were the people swimming around me, and just me looking at them. Look, you know how to do a flip turn. Can you teach me that? And they'll teach me. Oh, and then another lesson that I saw in that process you just mentioned, because people will see me there daily, they started to just give me tips and advice. for free.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
effort. They saw that this guy is trying. You know what? I'm good at this. I'm just going to help him, just randomly. So it's a lot of synergies there with what you just mentioned with entrepreneurship. Listen, man, I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah. That's true.
I can talk to you all day. Right? We could get in. We could be talking about micropayments, mathematics, and those that don't know, you see my videos. Guys on Instagram obviously know, because my guys on Instagram, people I train with, so they know I'm passionate about health and fitness. So we could have a whole conversation about that.
Maybe we should do a second one and just talk about fitness and philosophy. No tech.
Know if that will resonate with my core audience about the Tech Behind FinTech, but I would actually love that conversation. And we might, now that you said it, we have a Tech and Life edition in which we're doing more of that. We want to understand other sides to the CEOs, to the CTOs, to the people that we talk to, because people are multifaceted. So we want to get the technology side, the FinTech side, but we also want to understand what inspires them and what drives them. So, that particular show, now that you talk about it, maybe sooner than later, once we start. But this format of the show is a kickoff to that direction. So the thing that we do for our guests, we give you the platform to just tell people how to find you, what new developments are happening in AmpaCash, and we'll give you that platform, and then we'll hop right back on.
All right, fair enough. Much appreciated. So yeah, thank you. If you want to get to, AmpaCash is the payment model or payment instrument that we have. Is a mobile phone. You can download the app from the Google Play Store and the Apple Store, and you'll be able to do all the typical transactions, P2P, send money to somebody, identify the person that gets it via video. We also have the pay-to-stream platform, beta.paytostream.com. And it's designed for content creators, local US content creators, foreign content creators. You can drag and drop your content, generate revenue from it. You can reach us if you go to AmpaCash, www.ampacash.com. You can contact through support or contact any of the AmpaCash executives directly. We're raising funds to be able to support our pay-to-stream so that content creators can get a fair shake, so to speak, get good revenues from all the work they do. And we really appreciate your support. We're in competition with huge people, traditional payment services, and we think that with the support of content creators, individual users, corporations will be able to deliver to our customers.
Beautiful. Guys, I put the URLs to AmpaCash at ampacash.com on the screen. Also put the URL to pay to stream on the stream. So as you know, we are live every Friday, 12 p.m. Tech Behind FinTech. We really appreciate your support. We appreciate all the comments, everyone who streamed in and is watching, both on Instagram. I see my guys here. I see also people on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you go to techbehindfintech.com/subscribe, you can subscribe so you won't miss a beat on upcoming episodes and future guests. We have a whole laundry list of great people that we'll be bringing on to speak. On that note, we thank you for your time. We bid everyone a wonderful weekend. We thank our esteemed guest, Chiji Uzo from AmpaCash. Looking forward to the wonderful things that you'll be doing, and we'll circle back as you. So, what we do, you're a friend of the show now. Anytime we have more information on payment rails or something comes out of the news, we'll invite you on to help break it down for the audience. Also, as you release new development, you have major releases coming out, come back on the show and let's talk about it. So on that note, to all, have a great weekend, and thank you very much for tuning in. Cheers.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Much appreciated.
Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.